Democracy, compared with other variants of governments, have become popular globally because of the opportunity it provides for people to determine who their leaders should be. The abiding fate of people in the process of democracy hinges on its core principles of participation and accountability. Through the machinery of elections, democracy ensures that voters control decisions about who should represent them and where and when policies that affect their lives are made. What distinguishes democratic rule from its authoritarian counterparts is democracy's emphasis on mass participation made possible by the conduct of elections. Under a democratic regime, the accountability of leaders to the people who elected them becomes an inescapable norm. The survival of public office holders in their positions depends on how well they perform in office. It also depends on how the leaders justify, through performance, the mandates given to them by the people during election, knowing full well that they risk losing their appointments if they fail to perform. Democracy, which is adjudged to be the best form of government all over the world, is also being constantly assaulted in Nigeria due to the phenomenon of vote buying and election rigging. Election rigging and vote buying have made a mockery of the good qualities of democracy in the country. In fact, the destructive power of money politics has been fingered as one of the factors that undermine good governance in Nigeria.
Vote buying actually steals the rights of people. You know, it's selling your franchise, which is your ability, that is your power to say, okay, this is the person or this is the individual I believe will protect my interests. It is compromising your interest for just a little pieces of change, you know, and the effects are very detrimental because it could lead to, you know, uneven distribution of resources in a country or in a nation. That's one. And two is marginalization, and some people will not be adequately represented when the time comes.
Vote buying has become an aspect now of election rigging, and it's a very sad phenomenon this time around, where people sell their conscience for money as against choosing somebody who will lead them and guide them through their lives. So, vote buying is a very sad phenomenon.
Repercussions of vote buying are many. One, it will bring underdevelopment. Those that bought your vote will want to go to government and steal money to replace the money they gave you to buy their vote. In the process, they will not fund education, they will not fund healthcare, they will not provide security, and they won't have the moral right to question them to do those things as a citizen.
This is In Depth on ABS Television. I am your host, Priska Wanko. Today, our spotlight will be on vote buying and election rigging and what implication it holds for governance. Joining the conversation today, I have Mike Opia. Hello and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Mike Opia is the coordinator of CSO's Coalition for Transparency, Accountability and Good Governance, COTAG, right?
Yeah.
All right, so you see, who better to join this conversation today than Mike Opia, because it's obvious it's all about good governance, accountability, and of course holding the leaders accountable to the people they are leading. That is why today we're talking about vote buying and what implication it holds for our development as a country. So Mike Opia, vote buying and election rigging, what can you tell us about this?
Well, in a nutshell, vote buying and rigging means subverting the normalcy, the convention, the rules and regulations guiding elections. Now, if you talk about vote buying, people, because as we progress, people are having new lexicons, new languages in our election process. Vote buying is the current language, but vote buying is a part of money politics we'll be talking about. Okay? And vote buying starts from the time politicians are vying for positions as aspirants, to the level they become candidates, and the level they go to the poll for people to vote for them, and even after the election, because you can buy vote even from INEC. Now, vote buying, being the process of money politics, starts when the party leadership start taking money from aspirants to give them a ticket to run for a particular post. That's vote buying. Vote buying also go to a level where the candidate himself buy the delegates, give them money to come and vote for them during primary elections. That's vote buying. Vote buying is also when you stand at the polling station and they say, vote for me and come and take 2,000 naira. That's vote buying. Vote buying is also when a politician bribes a judicial officer to give the ruling to favor him. That's vote buying. Vote buying, the new one that happened yesterday, is when government is bound electoral panel, a judicial panel, that is happening in Osun without any reason. That is something has transpired. And these are riggings at the high level.
Wow, this is interesting. You actually managed to, give us different forms of vote buying.
Yes.
All right, so, but people say that behind every action, there is a reason. That before somebody does something, there is something in your mind that made you do that thing. So having said this, what are the causes? Why do this vote buying? Why does it keep trending? What are the reasons for this vote buying and election rigging?
Politics has become the biggest business in Nigeria. When you are a politician, forget about it. After 4 months, you are a billionaire. So everybody is dying to get it. It's a do or die affair. That's number one. And that gives the reason, number two reason of desperation. All politicians are desperate to get to that office because you are not going there to serve. You are going there to reach your pocket. So it must be me. Whatever is an investment. The third reason is becoming an investment. Yes, public offices in Nigeria are investment. Buy the vote, go in there, and they recoup your money.
Oh, okay, I've spent something, I need to get it back.
I bought this vote, I bought this position with 10 million. Wow. So when I get to that position, my first preoccupation is to get the 10 million.
Wow.
Get the gain, the profit on top of it, before I start thinking of service. You see why people are desperate in getting to winning elections, quote and unquote, by buying the vote and the rigging. Okay. Because the vote buying is a part of rigging.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So these are the reasons why politicians are desperate to buy the vote, because the highest investment you make in Nigeria now is to become a politician and be elected to an office. Yes. On democracy, on sale. Yes. It's like I told you, is business. Most businesses are done by buying and selling. So the politics in Nigeria and democracy itself is goes to the highest bidder. So if you can, in fact, it's become so shameful that even the political leaders give it to the highest bidder. So democracy is now on sale. Democracy is now a merchandise in Nigeria that you can put on your shop. As soon as
against the highest bidder.
Against the highest bidder. Anybody that comes and has the bidder. There's instances whereby there are 4 people vying for a particular political office as aspirants, and they went for election. Yeah, and at the end of it all, result came out. The first man that won the election that's supposed to get the certificate of return was not given. The fourth was not given. It was the 5th that just received certificate of return.
Wow, interesting.
And it happens everywhere. That's why you have crisis everywhere after the primaries.
Okay.
You see, so democracy is really on sale, and it's a shame, and it's a dangerous trend.
Sure.
It's a dangerous trend because it's no longer those who are coming out are no longer coming out to serve. Those who are coming out are no longer have the ability and capacity to serve. So what you are seeing now is this level of degeneration in our political system. Poverty is increasing. Okay, insecurity is the order of the day. You find out that the youth restiveness and unemployment. This is because those who are on power got there because they bought the position. Okay. And when you buy a position, what you do is to recoup your investment
Yeah, because you spent a lot.
You spent a lot to get there, so you recoup the investment. Programs to make the society, to better the society is not on your, can even come third in your priorities.
Because you're interested in, getting your money back.
Getting your money back, and not only getting your money back, trying to save the one that will enable you buy another one after the 4 years. So
Okay.
it is that the trend continues.
Wow, the trend is actually an ugly one. But okay, this phenomenon of vote buying and election rigging, it's not been there. It has always been there. But why is it so rampant recently? Why is it gaining so much recognition in recent times?
After the independence, our politicians that went in there to serve. Even though because it's a contest, who is the best to go in, who has better program to go in. That was the order of the day before. But now, what we have now is, if I go in there, but I know those that we are pushing barrow, I know those that we are hairdressers in one's shop, that are now millionaires because one godfather helped them to buy the vote and give them, and they're now either in the House of Assembly, National Assembly, or Senator, they are now billionaires.
Wow.
So if you see such a person, that two of you were walking on the street without anything, and now after 4 years, is now a billionaire, my dear, you do all you can to make sure that you get there. And that explains the level we are in now, the level of desperation, the extent people go for rigging. It is now shamelessly done with impunity. Nobody cares. As long as I say, the slogan now among them politicians:
No.
rig and get into power, and let's go to court.
Hey, wow, that is.
And if you go to court, the danger of going to court.
Yeah.
Unless the judge, because you are now in the fate of 3 or 4 judges,
True, yeah.
and you can easily buy them.
True.
Okay, so it is better to go to there and buy smaller number of people than buying the whole constituency. So you see where we are going to.
Yeah,
so it's a dangerous thing happening.
But you said something about becoming a billionaire. I think that was what actually caught my attention. I'm not a billionaire, so are you saying if I get into power because I want to get involved in politics, I can become a billionaire?
My dear, if you look for a godfather and buy a vote, if you don't have the money, and buy the vote and get there, in the next 4 years, you can't even accept to work in central bank because you're a billionaire.
This is not a small thing, though.
It's a big business. The biggest business in town is politics.
Wow.
That's why there's this level of desperation and rigging.
I have to get involved. But anyway, we're
But
going
don't rig when you get involved.
Oh, no, wala. We're going to go on a short break and come back. The program continues. This is still In Depth on ABS Television. You're welcome back to the program. This is still In Depth on ABS Television, and just before that break, I was talking to Mr. Mike up here about becoming a billionaire, and he said, if I have to become a billionaire, I should not rig if I eventually get into power. Which brings a question to mind. Mr. Mike, a lot of people have attributed poverty to the reason why people are so eager to sell their votes and their franchise. And I'm saying, in your own opinion, do you think there is actually a correlation between poverty and votes buying and election rigging?
There is a very strong correlation between poverty and vote buying. That's number one. Number two is ignorance on part of the electorate. Okay? Because you are poor and you are not sure of the next meal on the table, and somebody comes and says, take 2,000 naira and even take your voter's card, you do that because you want to have a meal on your table in the next day for your children. Now, why you do that is because you are ignorant of what you have just done. You have sold your destiny, the destiny of your children and generation to come. And let's assume I was giving 10,000 naira to sell my vote, okay? And that's for the next 4 years. Now, if you get 360 days in a year, multiply it into 4, divide it by 10,000, you are not getting up to 1 naira or 10 kobo per day for that vote you've sold. Now, what it means that you sold your destiny for 10 naira or 10 kobo per day. And that 10 kobo cannot buy you anything in the Nigerian market today. See how you have just wasted your destiny and destiny of your generation. So that is why ignorance is part of it. And again, ignorance is part of it because if you know your civic responsibilities, because voting is both a right and a responsibility. So if you know that it is your right to vote, you won't say you are right.
Okay.
If you know it is your responsibility to vote, you will not abdicate that responsibility. So that's why there's need for voter education. That's why there's need for political education. For people to understand why they shouldn't sell their vote. In fact, I can't even sell my vote for 10 million naira.
Wow.
Tell
Are
them
you
to
for
come.
real? Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Because do the mathematics I just told you.
Yes.
That is the monetary aspect of it. Talk about the moral aspect of it. Talk about what I intend to lose and my generation to come. Look at what we are suffering today in Nigeria. People are dying. Suicide level is very high. That's because people decided to do what they're not supposed to do and wrong people on power. And people even gave their life because the situation is so unbearable. So if you are aware and you know what it entails, you won't sell your vote for anything.
All right. Why have money become such a very strong determinant in Nigerian politics?
You know that somebody is an armed robber. He comes home and he's made a chief in the village because he has money. So we have gotten to a level that we now worship money. And when you are worshiping money, you are indirectly worshiping the demon guiding money. And that's why people do anything for money. You see, the problem is that two of us could be the best of friends. When money comes in now, anything can happen. So that is the extent you understand the spirit guiding money. And when it takes the front burner, people will do anything for it because you are guided by a spirit you cannot control.
Wow, this is so.
This is how terrible we've gotten.
It's wow. Okay, all right. So we've already established the many causes where people get involved in vote buying and election rigging. But how do you think this vote buying and election rigging? What effects does it have on the electorate? The
effect is that the electorate is number one effect that you've sold your right. Number two is that you cannot even the vote is no longer counts, and consequently those in power are no longer after the development of the society. They're after the development of their pocket. Poverty grows. Underdevelopment moves on at a higher level. Crisis, insecurity, order of the day. And you discover that the society is in shambles, like Nigerian society now is in shambles. Okay? People's life, people can take 5,000 naira to go and assassinate somebody. Take 5,000, there are stories instances that people are paid 5,000 naira to go and kill. And they take 5,000 naira and go and kill. And that's because the level of poverty, you see, if you have nothing to live for, you live for anything.
Wow.
That's what we have gone into.
So what can we do to ensure that people are not carried away by this monetary inducements, thereby mortgaging their future? You see, it's very difficult in level, if you look at the level of Nigerian political development. Okay. But we can do something to start stemming such tide. By political education, by mobilization and sensitizing the people to know what it is. If I get people in a room and do this mathematical exercise I've not done now, you know that if you take 10,000 naira from somebody for 4 years, you are not worth 10 kobo a day. So now if that can sink down to you, and you know that 10,000 naira does not worth anything, you will be able to guide your appetite, okay, and greed in selling your vote. So education is the basic thing, both on the part of the electorate and the part of the politicians. Okay, they need to be educated so that people go into politics to serve and not to grab. Okay, because our politicians go in to grab, not to serve. So that is why we have all this. So education is the main thing. That's the basic thing we should do. Okay, and when you do education and the right people get into power, poverty will be reduced. People will no longer be desperate to get 2,000 naira today because they have nothing and they have no hope. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Mike, the 2019 general elections are fast approaching. So, what do you think we can do to ensure that this issue of vote buying and election rigging doesn't rear its ugly head and affects the elections come 2019?
That's a big thing, a big task, but we must start doing something. Right? It's achievable. It's achievable. Let me not be a prophet of doom. But then the issue is that the level of crisis and desperation among politicians in this dispensation has never been seen before. Okay, but we will start educating our people. We'll start educating the security agencies, the umpire himself, that is INEC, and then the government in power, to know that using your power as an incumbent because you have the resources to buy votes and intimidate others and rig the election will not help you at the end of the day. Look at the disaffection the present federal government is gathering here and there. Okay? People, and I saw a photograph of Atiku and Bill Clinton and the wife today. They said Atiku cannot go to America. But he was in America, and Trump sent Bill Clinton to represent him.
Wow. To
welcome Atiku. You begin to do anything to discredit your opponent because we are desperate to be in power. And the crisis keep on going on. So our politicians should I think we should start organizing political education for our leaders to understand that you are going there to serve and not to grab. And if we start doing that, maybe we'll start having some achievement. But for 2019, my sister, get ready for vote buying. Desperation, intimidation. And the worst that we are seeing now is the judiciary, that is the last hope of common man, is giving us a sign that is not comfortable.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mike Opia. We've been talking with Mike Opia. Mike Opia is the CSO's Coalition for Transparency, Accountability, and Good Governance, COTAG. Thank you for coming to the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so there you have it. Remember that a person who buys your vote is a fraudster and will continue to defraud citizens when eventually they get into power. So what are you waiting for? Voters, decide today to be wise and report anybody that is trying to induce you with monetary items, with monetary inducements to the appropriate authorities, so we can end this plague once and for all. This is In Depth on ABS Television. I've been your host, Priska Mongo. Till next time. Bye for now.